I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Russian revolt. How the White House is responding to the fallout overseas as Republican candidates seek their shot at the Oval Office. German raid. A German archbishop is under investigation for alleged perjury. We'll explain. Taking a stand. How one woman is fighting for athletic equality. Plus, the art of beauty. Pope Francis sends a message to creators from around the world. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Cyril of Alexandria. Our top story tonight, the Vatican peace envoy, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, is heading to Moscow this week. The trip comes a few days after an apparent coup attempt against the Russian government by mercenary soldiers. Earlier this month, Cardinal Zuppi visited Ukraine to try and initiate a peace deal. In the 1990s, the Cardinal helped to mediate peace deals ending civil wars in Guatemala and Mozambique. Well, President Joe Biden says that his national security team is monitoring the situation in Russia as new details emerge about the weekend revolt. The president is speaking with key allies and sending more military aid overseas. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, as the White House and the world keep a watchful eye on Russia, officials here announced today more aid for Ukraine in the form of military hardware. Here's the list, short list: 50 heavily armored vehicles, missiles for air defense systems to the tune of $500 million. The aid aimed at bolstering Ukraine's counteroffensive.
At the Kremlin, Russian President Vladimir Putin hails the security forces for averting a civil war by acting to oppose the armed mutiny launched by Wagner Group. Its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, is now seeking safe haven in Belarus. Russian authorities say they've closed a criminal investigation into the uprising and are pressing no charges. In the White House press briefing room today, more reaction to the unfolding events.
I'm not going to forecast any future action against Wagner or even speculate on what the future might hold. As you know, we are continuing to monitor this situation closely.
And in the 2024 race for the White House, several Republican candidates converged on New Hampshire today. Former President Donald Trump spoke to his supporters.
And now we are approaching the most important battle of our lives. I believe this is the most important election we've ever had.
And his closest competitor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, also appealed to voters.
And I would challenge you, show me a place that's embraced leftist ideology and has imposed that as their governing agenda that is successful in the United States right now. I cannot think of one.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley scheduled a town hall in New Hampshire tonight, but first appeared in Washington, D.C. to speak about the growing threat from China.
It has destroyed freedom in Hong Kong. It has deepened its genocide of the Uyghurs. It is threatening Taiwan daily.
President Biden heads to Chicago tomorrow to give a speech on the economy. And unemployment is low and inflation has been falling, but it's still higher than when he took office. Polling has consistently shown the economy to be a weak spot for the president's re-election chances. And according to one survey, just 33% of Americans approve of his leadership on the economy. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the Supreme Court ruled that state judges can override state legislatures regarding how federal elections are conducted. The case was brought after a state court in North Carolina struck down a congressional districting plan as highly partisan, prompting Republicans in the state to ask the high court to intervene. The court ruled 6-3, with Chief Justice John Roberts writing the majority opinion. The state Supreme Court of Tennessee heard arguments today on a measure to ban abortion once a baby's heartbeat is detected. A similar bill was shot down earlier this year by a 3-2 margin. A justice who ruled in favor of abortion has since retired. The new heartbeat bill is on hold as it moves through the courts. While Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville continues to hold strong and tells EWTN News Nightly that he will not end his holdup of military promotions until Pentagon officials change their policy on abortion. As we have reported, he is protesting paying for the travel costs of service members who are seeking abortions. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with the latest. Eric.
Well, good evening, Trace. You know, military promotion holds are now entering a 5th month, and nearly 260 military personnel are waiting, including President Biden's Joint Chiefs of Staff nominee. Now, Senator Tuberville tells me that the Department of Defense should not be using taxpayer money to fund the travel expenses for abortions for military personnel because it's against the law.
I'm not changing for a voting committee or possibility that Schumer might put it on the floor, or a possibility that if it did pass, that the president wouldn't sign it. I mean, it makes no sense. So we're going to keep the holds on.
Senator Tommy Tuberville tells me, bottom line, what the Department of Defense did by changing its abortion policy is against the law and must be changed back. Just last week, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst tried to advance an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act that would have overturned the Pentagon policy.
We believe that the action taken by DOD is illegal. We have protections put in place where taxpayer dollars can't be used for abortion purposes, and we feel this is stepping over the line.
But it failed. The pressure continues from all sides. Last week, President Biden called Senator Tuberville's hold bizarre. Even Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said,
I think holding these military personnel who have nothing to do with policy in order to try to dictate a policy change that I personally support is not the best way to go about it.
Democrats claim it's hurting the readiness of national security. Senator Tuberville disagrees.
I've talked to generals and admirals. All the jobs remain filled until somebody's promoted up. But I hate to do this because I love the military, but we have got to get some sense of reality up here.
Bottom line, Senator Tuberville tells me if the DOD wants to change the policy, Democrats in Congress need to put a bill on the floor and then vote on it. He adds that names aren't going to hurt him. He says that he's coached in some of the wicked fans that they've ever had in college, and he says that this group of Democrats on Capitol Hill don't scare him. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Eric. Well, the Vatican's Child Protection Commission is asking for feedback on the church's safeguarding principles. Responses from an online survey will be used to formulate an updated universal guidelines framework. The final document will be approved at the end of the year. Well, German police have searched properties belonging to the Archdiocese of Cologne as part of an ongoing investigation into Archbishop Rainier Wolke. The Archbishop of Cologne is being accused of perjury in an abuse case related to a priest who died in 2019. Archbishop Wolke is believed to have known about the case earlier than he said under oath. He submitted his resignation last year. Pope Francis has yet to accept it. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including protecting women's rights. We speak to a swimmer standing up for the future of female athletes. Plus, Pope Francis honors a special anniversary with artists from around the world. Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of embattled Bishop Richard Sticca of Knoxville, Tennessee. Bishop Sticca was investigated by the Vatican for the mismanagement of his diocese. He has also been accused of protecting a seminarian charged with multiple counts of rape. The 65-year-old denies any wrongdoing. Well, also in Tennessee, a protest rally was held Sunday against the Union Cycliste Internationale's policy allowing transgender women to compete in cycling races. The rally took place in Knoxville after the USA Cycling Women's Pro Road National Championship. And joining us now is Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American collegiate swimmer, advocate for women's sports, and advisor to the Independent Women's Forum. Riley, great to be with you. Thank you so much. I know you were there at the protest and, in fact, helped to organize it. Tell us more about it. What kind of turnout did you have, and why did you feel it was important?
Absolutely. There was a big national cycling championships in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is my home state. There was a male competing against the women. This was, it's a huge honor to be even at this meet. There was potential Olympic spots given out at this meet, so it was a very big deal. This male has taken spots and prize money from women for years. And I think people are finally rolling up their sleeves and saying enough is enough. This was important to me because I talked to some of the cyclists and they feel totally silenced, which I understand because that's how we felt when I was swimming, and we were dealing with this in regards to Leah Thomas. And so I was there being a megaphone, not just for those athletes competing at that championships, but for female athletes across the country.
Yeah, and the group Knox Pride, they actually responded in a press release saying, in part, quote, "Though we're not surprised, we are saddened to see increasingly misogynistic and anti-trans rhetoric from a women's organization that states they seek to protect women's sports." Riley, your response to that?
It's honestly comical. It really is that they're using misogyny to describe, I mean, misogyny is what we faced. That's what I faced. When we were explicitly discriminated against on the basis of our sex, that's what misogyny is. And that is what we faced. Our rights as women, our rights to privacy in that locker room, and again, in regards to my experience, those were totally thrown out of the window. Our rights to equal opportunity and fairness in our sports, it didn't matter to the people in charge of making these guidelines. That's what misogyny is. And so to have them explaining what feminism and misogyny is, it really is ironic.
It certainly is. Meanwhile, last week marked the 51st anniversary of Title IX. And I know you were here in D.C. testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee for a hearing entitled Protecting Pride, Defending Freedom and Civil Rights of LGBTQ+ Americans. Riley, tell us what you talked about and the kind of reaction or response you received.
I shared my experience in competing my senior year in college. I was a swimmer. I had trained my entire life to get to this meet. It was our national championships. It was the fastest meet in the world. About 3 weeks before we were set to compete, the NCAA announced that Leah Thomas, a male who competed 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania, ranking 462nd at best the year prior, would be competing against us. I saw and watched as Leah Thomas won a national title. Thomas and I, the next day, we actually tied in the 200 freestyle, meaning we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. And the NCAA told me that I didn't get the trophy because Thomas had to have it, as it was crucial. He had it for picture purposes. That's what thrusted me to speak out, and that's what I was there sharing my experience on. These senators, both Republican and Democrat, they were able to ask questions, provide insight. And really what I noticed was even these Democrat senators, several of them actually, Senator Durbin, Senator Booker, they admitted what happened was deplorable. And so what I'm noticing is they can't look me in the eyes, can't look someone who was directly impacted and affected by this in the eyes and tell me that it's okay, because it's blatantly unjust. And I think they see that.
Yeah, something else I want to touch on. Recently, our own White House correspondent, Owen Jensen, he questioned White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre about whether transgender athletes should play in women's sports and what she would tell parents who may be worried about their daughter's safety. Karine Jean-Pierre gave a rather testy response, and that interaction between the two, it really went viral with a lot of people commenting on it on social media, including yourself. Your thoughts, Riley, on what transpired in that briefing room and also the message it sends?
What transpired was the press secretary being entirely disingenuous to a legitimate concern about our safety as women. And that's the message that it sends. It sends that the people leading this country in charge of these rules, these guidelines, they don't care about women. They don't care about our rights to privacy. They don't care about our fairness, our rights to safety, our dignity. They would rather protect a radical minority, with us being the collateral damage in the process.
Riley, before I let you go, we have about 30 seconds left or so, but final thoughts, and also what's next for you?
That's a loaded question. I'm praying every day, to be honest, of direction, where I need to be, asking God to put his hand over me, which I know he has done and which I know he will continue to do. So we will see. I don't know if it's getting involved more so in politics, but this is an issue that I've taken on and that I'm not going to stop fighting for.
Oh, Riley, we thank you for your time today. We are praying for you as well, and God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, finding harmony and beauty. Pope Francis honors a special anniversary for the Sistine Chapel with over 200 artists. Plus, Father Mike Schmitz shares how he has been inspired by the faithful and what's next for Ascension Press. Father I'm Mike Schmitz. As the host of two wildly popular podcasts on the Catholic faith, the students at the University of Minnesota Duluth know him as the head of the school's Newman Center. In part two of our interview, Father Schmitz tells us more about his listeners, his busy schedule, and what comes next after the Catechism in a year. I'm wondering, what are the age ranges of people that you're hearing from that are listening to this podcast, and the Catechism in particular?
Yeah, I've heard all the same ranges as for the Bible. So the Catechism, it is, I have a bunch of letters I'll get from like 9 years old, like the young man, really little, because like my mom listens to it when she picks us up, or my dad listens to it on the way to work. He drops us off at school, and that kind of thing, all the way up to emails and letters from I'm 85 years old, I'm 92 years old. And I'm listening to this, and I think there's something remarkable about this. One, it's not just kind of quote unquote cool. I think there is a profundity to Catholics being willing to say, okay, God, you get to tell me who you are, and that's one of the biggest things that my takeaway from the Bible and the Catechism in a year is this. Okay, God, you revealed yourself. And now I'm going to actually open myself up to your revelation. In the sense, I think a lot of us, we experience our formation, our religious formation, through the lens of someone, whether that be our parish priest or our religious ed director or, the nun who helped out at a school or wherever. It's through someone else. But to allow Scripture, allow God to reveal himself through Scripture, to allow the church to teach us through the Catechism, it forces us to say, wait, is that the God I believe in? Because I've always believed in the God that was told to me by Father so-and-so or Sister so-and-so or my teacher. And there's this reckoning that I can't just pick and choose and make a God of my own invention. I have to actually say, God, you revealed yourself this way through the Bible and through the Catechism, through the church. Are you the one I believe in? And I have come across so many people who have been so challenged by Scripture and so challenged by tradition through the Catechism that some who have said, no, I'm out. I honestly, there have been some people who have said, that's what's in the Bible, I'm out. Not a ton. Most people have said, I should have known this my whole life.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you juggle all of your various jobs and you get it all done. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because I'm curious, do you sleep at all?
That's a good question. Yeah, I know my bishop had said after this, he said, so after the Catechism's done, how about we take a break? and so he wants me to focus on building a church here on campus and a Newman Center on campus, a student center on campus. So that's the next task after this. But it's been a gift. But at the same time, one of the things I had to come face to face with about doing the daily podcast, because I've already done, I've been doing 2 weekly podcasts for the last, however many years. And to do these daily podcasts, it's a different kind of monster. And to come face to face with, okay, this is a burden. Like, this is good, but it's a burden. And then to come to that conclusion of, okay, it's a burden. I can acknowledge that, but it's a burden worth carrying. It is a burden worth carrying. And I just, I'm so grateful. I always think of it like this, and this is for anybody who's, watching or listening to this, because the state that wherever we're called to, whatever God has called us to, I think so often we just say, oh gosh, I can't wait till this is done. I can't wait till this deadline is passed. I can't wait till I can just, where they be. I can't wait till the kids are all in school, or I can't wait till the kids are graduated. I can't wait until whatever that stage in life is. And I always keep coming back to this truth. I think it's a truth that the day will come when we will miss the things that we currently complain about.
Well, you're an inspiration, that is for sure. And I don't want to forget to ask you about this. I understand that Ascension is also getting ready to launch a new app. So much going on. What can you quickly tell us about that?
Oh my gosh. So Ascension has done so much work on this. I mean, they have, not only producing the podcast and making it available to everybody, but also they're launching a new Bible in a Year and Catechism in a Year app. And so one of the great things about this app is that it has the Bible in a Year podcast and the Great Adventure Bible together. And I've been playing with it a little bit, and it has all these hyperlinks where you can go immediately from whatever we're talking about to the source. It has also, I think there's over 1,000 additional questions and answers that are provided. I mean, one of the things I found was that talk about like, how do you do it all? The part that's hardest for me, I think, over the course of these last couple of years with the Bible and Catechism has been when people ask questions that go beyond the podcast. Like, well, you said this. What about, you missed this verse. You didn't miss it, but, you didn't explain this verse. So the Ascension app is going to have over 1,000 questions and answers about those things that people want to know in a deeper way. It's just so incredible. You can go to ascensionpress.com/app.
Yeah, it sounds like it makes it so much easier. Well, we're going to be downloading that very, very soon. Father Mike, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to be with you. God bless.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Finally tonight, Pope Francis recently met with a group of world-renowned artists in the Sistine Chapel. There, they honored together a special anniversary. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Thonhauser has more on that.
200 artists met Pope Francis in a true place of art. On June 23rd, the Holy Father received painters, sculptors, architects, poets, musicians, directors, and actors in the Sistine Chapel. The artists came from 30 different countries to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the inauguration of the collection of modern art in the Vatican museums. In 1964, then Pope Paul VI started a tradition. He invited contemporary artists and asked to renew the friendship between the Church and the arts. In his address, Pope Francis reminded those present that the Church always had a special friendship with artists, alluding to the times when the Church commissioned great work of arts that became patrimony of everyone, whether believers or non-believers. The Holy Father expressed his wish to look towards a new season of rich fruits coming from a relationship between the Church and arts, based on, as he said, a climate of listening, freedom, and respect. People need those fruits. Those special fruits, Pope Francis insisted. The Holy Father closed the encounter with an appeal to the artists, asking them not to forget about those who suffer and those most in need. They would be especially close to the heart of Christ, he said. And Pope Francis continued, the poor too have a need of art and beauty. Amongst the 200 invited artists were also real stars, some more outspokenly Christian, others more controversial. For example, there was also Andres Serrano, who became infamous in the 1980s for his photography of a crucifix submerged in bodily fluids. Youth sculptor Barry X. Ball, on the other hand, is well known for his portrait sculptures, including a more recent one of Pope St. John Paul II. During the audience, Pope Francis quoted French philosopher and mystic Simone Weil, saying that beauty seduces the flesh in order to gain entrance to the soul. He encouraged the artists to produce beauty, but not superficial cosmetic beauty, but true beauty that reflects harmony. That way, he said, artists could help us make room for the Holy Spirit. In Rome, Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.